All right, hop a day, everybody. This is House to Home, where we tell you all the aspects of the real estate business. Liz is feeling very, very feline, it looks like. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm dressed up like a wannabe hockey player, which I could never be. I'm not that talented. But our friend's security title, at least one of you is dressed up, and I would say, Patsy, that is amazing.
Thank you.
All right. So, Liz, well, first of all, we got Patsy, Claire, and Jesse down there at security title. Thank you guys
Cherry.
for joining.
Cherry.
Oh, Jerry, I'm sorry.
Cherry, yes.
There you go. Jesse, Sus, Jerry, and everything. I get them all mixed up. Can you think I've had too much Halloween candy already? Can you guys tell?
You're bouncing off the wall, Jason.
There you go. Well, okay, so Liz, you actually picked the topic, and this topic has a very definite Hallows Eve theme.
Well, it's Halloween, so we wanted to talk about how real estate transactions die.
Ooh.
And of course, there are two sides usually in a transaction. The agents handle one side, and of course, on the other side, we have the escrow company who handles stuff. And usually, when we encounter problems, the escrow company looks at solving what issues that they can handle on their end. And so I thought it was very appropriate to see sometimes things die on our end as a real estate agent, and sometimes things die on the other end when it comes to the escrow side. So I kind of wanted to just touch on that. So anyway, on my end, I just wanted to talk about when you're in a transaction and the transaction is moving forward, usually there's if contingencies are not met, the deal could die. So if they, let's say, do an inspection and it does not meet the buyer's satisfaction, at that point, they can back out of the deal and also retain their earnest money deposit. Another issue is, what if the appraisal is low? So that could kill the deal. Now, unless it's written in the contract, it talks about if the appraisal is lower than the purchase price, that the buyer and seller can renegotiate that purchase price. We have seen transactions where there was no middle ground and a buyer and seller could not agree on reducing the price, or at least meeting somewhere in the middle. So we've had some negotiation where if the difference was 20,000, then sometimes the seller will say, okay, I can eat the 10,000. And the buyer says, okay, I'll add the 10,000. So in that respect, they can negotiate to make the deal move forward. But in some cases, both parties do not agree. And then, of course, the deal dies.
And it meets its untimely demise.
Exactly.
Well, that does sound like a horror story. So let's go to our friends now, like that are experts in the world of escrow. So, folks, do you guys consider yourselves more, financiers or more morticians on this point, or like a forensic pathologist, maybe?
I think it's more of like a wizard looking into the crystal ball.
Oh, okay.
It really depends on what the situation is. We wear many hats here.
What I'm a big sports nerd and everything. So what would you say is the batting average of, like, say, if you see 100 deals like come your way, like proposed and everything, how many of them actually don't make it to completion and wind up being transactional sales?
Good question. I don't know, maybe percentage wise.
What do you think?
Maybe 95% go through.
I think at this market we are in right now, a lot of the cancellations are not particularly the horror stories that we're talking about. It's more horror story of the interest rates, right? But
Yeah.
I think maybe
interest rates is a horror story at this point.
Interest rates are very, very scary these days. Ooh, yeah. Interest rates.
Sorry, Patsy. Go ahead.
But I think it's more on the, I would say 95 more on not being able to complete a transaction because of an actual horror story that we can't resolve as far as title. I think security title is really good at trying to find solutions to make it work, and of course insurable, providing clear title to both the buyer and the lender involved.
I mean, I think it's fitting, Patsy, since you're wearing, a getup that really looks like, like Jason from Friday the 13th, because as much as you guys can, I mean, you guys just don't see like a suspect deal and say, like hands off and everything. Like you said, you guys do try your very best, and like, Friday the 13th, you just keep coming back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of it is also with experience as past files that we worked with, what worked and what didn't work, and what resources we can use. So we share the ideas with our team. If they've come across a certain situation, we kind of work that avenue too. So, and of course, our management team is actually really good at also guiding us, with what we can do to make it work.
And like you said, I think if you said, there's a rough estimate of 95% of all the deals you see actually make it all the way through, I'm really comfortable with that. I mean, put it this way, ladies and gentlemen, that's a better batting average than Babe Ruth. I mean, 95% is actually very, very good, which leads me to believe that those 5% were either doomed from the start, or they're just, it's just really, really, unfortunate situations that just cannot be resolved for whatever reason.
Yeah, and quite honestly, a lot of times, the ones that we think we can't resolve, we actually succeeded, and that's actually a good feeling when we, but it definitely is something that we work hard to getting it to our clear to close and getting the parties closed, and have happy buyers and sellers on their new journey. So I think it's more of the experience that we have here at Security Title, and a combination of our thoughts and what we can do to complete a transaction.
Now, since we are talking about trick or treat, ladies and gentlemen, I'm curious now, what are the preferred candies of escrow professionals? Do you guys do, I've got some here. So like, do you guys go for, like the Snickers, or do you go for like the Mounds? And do you guys like you can't even, do you guys like coconut and chocolate? If you work in escrow, how do you guys get your sugar fix?
Oh, I am notorious for having chocolate in my office. And that's kind of like everybody comes around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon trying to get a sugar rush, and
they dig through Patsy's jars.
And you know what's really interesting? You guys have a beautiful office. I've seen it before. I've been there, and it also, maybe makes perfect sense that there's a few dental offices down there too.
Yeah.
See, it's all one big ecosystem, which I think, Liz, is what we're talking about, because everybody involved in the real estate life cycle and everything like that really does work together.
Yes, and Jason, we perform CPR on our transactions.
Oh my gosh.
We do CPR on my end, and if it goes flatline, I call the guys in the escrow office and I said, you have to keep pumping to get it going, or inject something to make this deal work.
Yeah. Okay, so and on a serious note now, you talked about, like, and again, trying to breathe new life and trying to, use the paddles. All right, clear, let's get this deal going, right? How much longer will you actually apply those techniques and try to, really resuscitate a deal before you just know, like, okay, like this thing just isn't panning out, and it's just like we're just working too much for something that's just not going to transpire?
Well, on my end, we usually try to come up with solutions. If, it's like I tell my clients, you've got to have plan A, B, and C. And also on the front end, kind of give people advance notice that if this transaction goes one direction, what would the scenario be, and what would the answers be, and what direction to go at that point. So if we have a problem, then okay, we look, can we solve it with this solution or the other solution? And if I can't solve it, I'll call the escrow group and I say, okay, this is an issue. What can you do on your end? Especially when it has to do with title issues. And sometimes we discover things at the last minute, that there's an encumbrance, there's something attached to the title that was not disclosed, and prevents the transaction from moving forward until whatever that encumbrance is satisfied. So those are issues that crop up. And the other issue sometimes is unpaid taxes. I had one transaction that
Mm.
almost died because there was a 60,000 tax implication. Luckily, the seller had a receipt to show, and I was appalled that they had such a big tax implication, but they satisfied it and they showed me a copy of the receipt, and then the deal moved forward. But every day, I've been in real estate 27 years, and these guys have been in business probably about the same time or more, that every day brings a new scenario, a new solution. It's never a surprise that every day brings something, a new problem that we have to solve. Right, ladies?
What's the longest you guys have ever seen like a potential transaction be held up, or be stymied or delayed, be held in purgatory, let's just say,
I've had one for 7 years.
wow.
Yeah.
Seven's not a lucky number in that
That's
regard.
true. It's true, it's rare. I think the one thing that really can hold up a transaction for a long period of time is something that would involve a probate. That's usually when a transaction stalls for that long. If there's something else that might come up, let's say an encroachment is discovered during a survey process, those people tend to come to a compromise fairly quickly. It's either they do it or they don't want, or, there's some exchange or agreement provided, whether it's monetary or that they'll do it post-closing. So that's not that bad, but I think the longer something has been held in escrows usually involves a probate.
Mm.
That takes time.
7 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Long time.
Wow.
Yes.
Another thing would be actually not having to have any means of reaching out to someone, particularly on title, that may have been, news to the current owner who received the property through a deed of gift from their parents. You might have, a deed that was just recorded and kind of like, okay, who's this person? That might really stall the transaction, because now we're trying to find someone that even the seller doesn't know of. That might result to even quiet title. So that's another thing that may stall a transaction even longer. Just because again, they're gonna have to go in and do some hiring an attorney and trying to figure out what to do with the stray deed.
And you know what? Just to wrap up here, this is why I love doing this segment. This is why I love working with the Guam real estate community, because you wonderful ladies and gentlemen, you amazing Guamanians, you guys tell the best stories. You guys have seen it all.
Definitely.
You're like, oh man, Jason, we had this one deal once, and the guy was in the witness protection program, and then he had to go find his cousin who told his niece, and oh my gosh. Go ahead, Jerry.
No, I think that's the nice thing though about also doing transactions on Guam, because people know people who know people who know people, so it's kind of, it sometimes it's easy to connect the dots and sometimes not so much. And then you kind of have to do that detective work, Facebook, Instagram, Google. You do what you have to do, help the clients. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, nothing but tricks on this, and nothing but tricks on this segment, everybody. No treats. Or is it no treats but not tricks? I gotta slow down on the candy. I'm not making any sense anymore. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight, for your tireless work to this amazing industry that we're all just witnessing you guys be so amazing at, and everything like that. We're certainly in your honor.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye.